Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Universalis for MEIOU and Taxes 3.0 with me, Alpha Omega, and the Ottoman with the Devlet-i. So, we are here today to do a little bit of a review. It's a second Intermezzo episode and it's again connected to the death of our Sultan. Right now we have Padishah Mehmed II Osmanli on the throne. May he live long and his rule is prosperous. But we will be dealing mostly with the time of, not the ledger, the time and the reign of his father, who reigned for quite some time actually. Murad II, yeah, you can see that he reigned for a long time, from 1412 to 1448, so for 36 years, which is actually quite impressive. Before we start with the review though, I wanted to say that you guys had a couple of really good suggestions on the previous Intermezzo, so I added all of your suggestions into this review. So we're going to be looking at some new things that we didn't mention before. And if you again see something that I'm not mentioning here and that you would like me to review, please let me know. I have also went back into the previous Intermezzo and at the start of the game and added the relevant statistics so that you will see even the new stats stretching across the entirety of the playthrough. I'm saving between every single episode. It's a habit that I had from the olden days when the game could easily get corrupted and you need to revert from time to time. So yeah, I learned my lesson. I haven't been using it for a number of years now, but I'm still doing it just because it is a good habit to have. So if anything is missing, please let me know and I'll add it for the next one. And with that said, we're going to actually go ahead and start with the review. So I'm going to go ahead and read what the history says about our late Sultan. And then we're going to start looking at the population. We have an update for the cities, taxes, industry, military, and reforms. So first of all, Chronica Ragni. So as Murad reigned for 36 years, he has been involved in quite a lot of conquests. He had an unsuccessful Osmanli conquest of Attica, which is kind of interesting because I'm pretty sure that it wasn't unsuccessful. But maybe the game thinks so. I think that's where we gained the southern territories, and we probably didn't get anything from Attica itself. So maybe that's why it's considered unsuccessful, but it wasn't. It wasn't unsuccessful. Then we had a bloody Osmanli conquest of Constantinopolis, which has been now our capital for quite some time. It ended after 2 years, resulting in success. The successful Osmanli conquest of Trebizond in the far east lasted for 3 years. Padishah Murad II battled the epic Iranian conquest of Zaidan and our armies were competent. The triumphant Osmanli conquest of Sarditsa lasted for 2 years. Padishah Murad battled the long Osmanli conquest of Plovdiv. Yes, I remember that one was very long and, we brought bags full of gold from that one. And our armies were triumphant. The brutal Osmanli conquest of Philadelphia, well, brutal, I mean, it was brutally unfair to our enemies, but yeah, it ended after 0 years and we had 19,000 men compared to 1,000 men, a strong Roman army who lost most of their forces, meaning all of them. And the last one is a successful Osmanli conquest of Crimea in the north, where we have gained Crimea, Priazovia, and Seversky Donetsk. And then there's a bunch of things here about the conversions, but those are fairly broken. You can see that, for example, it says that in 1417 we converted Constantinia, but then it reverted back. That's because the game isn't... the Chronica Regni isn't made to show these things. It's the conversion in the vanilla, where this is working well, it's working completely different than here in the mod. During the reign of our Sultan, we saw the provinces of Thessalia, Silistra, Crimea, Priazovia, Seversky Donetsk, Lichnitis, Constantinia, Plovdiv, Theodoro, Philadelphia, Lazistan, Shumen, Orestis, and Chaldea gained. So it was quite a reign. Murad II was a brilliant strategist and he showed that in his actions by growing our empire to this span. So I'm hoping that his son is going to continue, but considering he is an entrepreneur, I think that I'm going to be focusing a bit more on reforms and construction, which I will be talking a little bit at the end. So now let us start looking at the statistics that I have pulled from the game. So we did a census, and I'm happy to say that the population of our core territories actually still continues to grow. We had 1,311,382 people in the core territories at the last Intermezzo, and now we have 1,369,066 people, which means there was a significant growth of 57,684 people in our original territory. And when I say core territories, I mean really the ones we started with, which is Gallipoli, Çanakkale, Balıkşehir, Bursa, Iznik, Eskişehir, Ankara, Bolu, Izmit, and Üsküdar. Those are the provinces that we started with. All of the rest we have gained. Now, when we want to see how the overall population of our empire grown, including the new provinces, we had 4,661,885 people, and we now have 6,106,040 people. So we added nearly 1.5 million new people to our territory. It's both growth and the newly added provinces. I also am kind of interested in looking at the wealth. You will see that now I actually created the weighted average in the wealth and average income of our population. So you can see that it now, logically, because we have way more tenants and nomads and residents than we had nobles and clergy. So the weighted average is now for the entire empire 17.4, which is 1.45 or 1.46 gold, if you want to round it up, more than we had before. So generally speaking, our average citizen is now about, what would that be, like 8% richer than he was just 30 years ago, which is quite a big difference when you think about the medieval era. Now, the only ones that actually got significantly less rich were the burghers, who lost nearly 600 gold on average per person. The rest really just added some. Even nobles, despite the fact that we have been curtailing them for quite some time now, are having quite a lot of extra riches. 14.16 gold, which, in the overall scheme of things, considering they had 257, still is a couple of percent, but it's not as much as it used to be. And when it comes to average income and spending, the only ones who are a little bit in the deficit, if you want to say it correctly, are the tenants. So our rural population, who has a little bit less than 0.04 gold more on spending than they have as an income. The situation is a little bit different when you look at the core territories, where the difference for each of our people when it comes to spending is more dramatic, but it's still nothing really bad. Generally speaking, pretty much everybody got richer. Now, we were talking before about the cities of our empire. We know that we have a number of them, and we now have a couple more that I'm going to show here. You can see the statistics for Bursa, Izmit, Ankara, Üsküdar, Kütahya, Konya, Karaman, and Halkidiki. And in this section, or this intermezzo time, we have added Constantinople, Eskişehir, and Chaldea. I used the color coding so you can see which areas have more development in rural, urban, upper, and who has the highest and lowest total development. It's scaled from yellow to green, so you can easily orient yourselves. What's kind of interesting is that our highest development is in Kütahya, which I'm kind of surprised by still, but why not? 27, and I actually made a little bit of a change in the metrics that I'm using here. I'm only adding provinces that have at least urban development of 4 instead of 3, because the list would be way too long if you would be interested in all that have 3, because we have a bunch of them that have urban development 3, and the list would just get too long. So I think that we might actually continue doing this in the future. With every intermezzo, we're going to add only the provinces with urban development of +1. So in the next one we would need at least 5. But I'm not sure how fast we're going to develop, because you can see that there is not that much difference. I mean, Warsaw has a little bit of urban development extra of 1 point. Anyone else? Konya added 1 urban development, and that's about it. Upper is the same everywhere. We had a quite development changes in rural though. Izmit added 1, Ankara added 2, Kütahya added 1, Karaman added 2, and that's that. Well, so it's gonna be interesting to see how it's gonna continue. Second thing that I am going to show you now on the screen is actually the 4 largest cities, or the 4 core cities that we have in our empire, and how they developed when it comes to population. Now this is really interesting because at this point I'm going to be tracking just these 4 cities because I consider them the most important. We have some that are actually larger than, for example, Üsküdar, but I just want to track these 4 to not make it way too complicated and overly long. So we're just going to be tracking these 4, and I think it's going to give us a really nice view of the population dynamic in our empire. Now, we've already established that the empire is growing, but it's not really the case for our 4 cities here. You can see that Constantinople actually bleeds population in every single tracked moment at the beginning of the game. And then at 1412 and 1449, its population shrank. In 1412, it actually lost quite a lot of, all of the population strata of the rural, urban, and notables. All of them actually were lost here. And when we compare this time period to the last one, you can see that it still lost a little bit of the rural population, but the urban seems to have stabilized. We now have my bad. I apologize. It gained a little bit of rural. It added 24, but the urban population dropped by 11,274. Notables grew up a little bit. I think this is because we subjected Constantinople to a number of sieges. I think we sacked it at 1410 or 1411, which is why there is such a huge difference. And we've had the plague ravaging us 2 or 3 times, and I think still, because of the second siege where we conquered Constantinople, it still hasn't fully recovered. For the other cities, you can see that Üsküdar and Bursa continues to grow throughout the entire period, with the exception of urban population between 1412 and 1449, where we have lost about 755 people, but overall they are nicely growing. Edirne itself lost quite a lot of population at around 1412. Remember, at 1357, the statistics for Edirne is still for Adrianople, which was under the command or rule of the Roman Empire. So we had to actually conquer it and sack it, and I think we might have gone with severe sacking because the loss of population is quite severe here. So yeah, but generally speaking, this is going to be interesting to see what the population is going to be in the 100 years, 200 years, how they're going to develop. Now, taxes. This is something that you guys actually requested, and it is a quite some stat. It's gonna probably take most of the screen, so let me just move you through that. You can pause the video afterwards and look at it yourselves. But again, we have the stats for 1357, 1412 and 1449. The most important part is at the very top, where you have the revenue, the corruption and the total. The revenue has continued to increase throughout the entirety of our playthrough. We started with just 121, then at 1412 we had 323, and now at 1449 we have 369. Where I see big improvement is in corruption, because when you look at 1412 and 1449, remember corruption is the amount that we lose to the local elites and bureaucracy itself. We had a corruption of 265.648 gold, which left us with measly 57 gold per year. But now at 1449, the corruption has barely increased, while the revenues increased by 46. So that means that our total revenue increased by 43, which is, approaching 50%. I mean, it's like 43% of the current total, but, it is a decent amount that we're gaining more due to the fact that the corruption has stayed the same, or actually in total numbers it stayed relatively the same. In the view of the percentage of our income, it actually dropped. Below it you can see where we're getting our revenue from. You can see the peasantry total, residents total, nobles total, burghers total, and clergy total. You can see it's spread also by categories: fees, rents, polls, excises, land, property. For the peasantry residents, you can see the percentage of the total income in that bracket, and what is the increase compared to last year. So not last year, but the last update. So you can see quite a dynamic here between the three updates. We are doing great. Our population is getting richer, and we are as well. Now, for those of you, if there are such that will actually study these numbers in great detail, you will notice that not always the numbers actually add up correctly. I don't know why that is. I think that there might be some internal mechanics that I don't understand, but not always the percentages give together 100%. Not always do they, even the numbers themselves do not add up exactly. So I think there might be something that we're missing here, but this is the numbers that the game has given me when I asked it for the taxation spread, or division, where we're getting our money from. So just a word of advice that there's a possibility of that kind of issue if you study it in big detail. Now, when it comes to the trade power, I have added another 3 trade nodes that we started to get in. Remember, I'm tracking here all of the trade nodes that we are present in. So you can see that we currently have, Aegean Sea, Anatolia, Black Sea, Levantine Sea, and Dniester. Those are the ones that we were present even before. And we have now spread to Jazeera, Lower Danube, and Caucasus. I added the percentages so you can see what the share that we have in that area is for us. And you can see the raw numbers for total and our trade power in the node. So, or trade value and our trade value. It's not about the trade power that much, but how much of the trade node we actually own. So you can see for Anatolia, we are, I don't even want to say dominant. We basically control the entire node. We're very dominant in the Black Sea, where we have nearly 62%. At the Aegean Sea, we're approaching 50%. I'm kind of surprised that the remaining provinces that you can see here, the Thracian Sea provinces here of Venice, Achaia, Athens, I don't know who. No, it's just these guys. It's kind of interesting to see that they still have, together have more than 52%. Well, what can we do? Either way, it is still there. So that's the difference. And then at the Levantine Sea, Dniester, Jazeera, Lower Danube, and Caucasus, we are, not even secondary, but we are going to improve that. The only exception is Dniester, where we are approaching 20%, but it's still minor numbers. Industry. Well, industry is actually quite interesting. You guys saw this one update exactly as it is now in the previous one, so you can see the differences in our original territory and in the whole territory, but the difference is there, and how we're doing when it comes to production. You can see a huge production increase. I think that's actually a new thing that I added, the production difference. In the production of food, we're also producing way more raw materials, a lot of salt, fiber, and we grew a lot in the consumer and military production as well, and industrial. We have a huge deficit in exotic goods and in fiber. Kind of interesting. Fiber is really something that we're missing, but I'm hoping that we manage to import enough for our people. And of course, we're very short in the area of exotic goods. Yes, but we're not producing those. I think they are from. I think that luxury are produced in Europe and exotic are produced in Asia and the colonies, but I would have to check. But I think that's how it works. And kind of interesting. The only place where we actually dropped heavily where we haven't grown. This is, akin to a statistical error, but we have remained stagnant in the naval production, where this is the only area where we haven't added any growth. Even in the exotic goods, we have a 0.88 growth. So it's kind of interesting to see, but happy. The production is generally speaking improving across the board. There's nothing that would really freak me out. The only exception, again, being the fibers, where we're missing quite a lot of production, but I don't think there's anything we can do with it right now. I'll have to look at where our fiber production is coming from, and we might actually want to look into it. Or if you guys know how the fiber production works and where we could get it, because it would be good to have a sort of a mercantile population where we can, produce everything that we need, that we can produce actually in our empire, and the fiber is something that we definitely need quite a lot. Now, the military statistics. You guys wanted to see a little bit of a comparison between where we were and where we are right now. So here you can see a couple of statistics in regards to military. We had 3 forts at the start of the game. 1412 we had 13. Now we have 23. Infantry regiments, we started with 7, then we had 6 at 1412, and now we have 12. Cavalry regiments, we had 5 at the beginning, then we had 3, and now we have 6. And artillery regiments, we started with 0 because we didn't have those available, then we had 2 at 1412, now we have 4. I know that our military was very weak at 1412, we were, involved in quite a lot of conquests. Our stability wasn't really all that good. Avids kind of hated us, so there was a lot of discontent in the empire. You can see it also at the total manpower that we had, which was lower at the beginning of the game. We started with 22,230 in the beginning, then we dropped to 18,890, and now we are at more than double, 38,160. Ships, we had none. We had 15 at 1412, and now we have 27. Administrative technology, diplomatic technology, and military technology keeps increasing. We had 17, 20, and now 25. Diplomatic, we had 17, and now then 23, and now 25. And military 17, 23, and now 25. Now what I'm going to show you next is the great power comparison, which I looked at. I actually wanted to compare it to the previous years, but I'll be honest, it's impossible, because the nations here change almost completely. The only ones that I remember seeing was France and us, and I think maybe Jaunpur, but it might have been Vijayanagar there instead. It's impossible. What's important though is to say that we were at 1412, 5th, so we dropped quite significantly, and our development was 678, now 869, so we are way lower than everybody else on the table, but nothing to be worried. We're still the 8th greatest nation in the world. The rating, I actually don't know how it's calculated. It says the rating is the development divided by current technology. I'm not entirely sure how. Penalty for missing institutions. Interesting. I'm not entirely sure how these stats are calculated. But still, we're staying on the table, which is good. We're still a great power, and hopefully we will remain for quite some time. And now, the last thing that you guys wanted to hear from me in the update, and that is what are some major infrastructure projects or reforms that we plan to do. Well, reforms. All of our reforms are basically dependent now on the loyalty of the bureaucracy, which is 18. The loyalty here also means power. So our bureaucracy is at 18% power, and that is fairly pathetic, honestly. We need to get it up because we need to get the bureaucratic hierarchy to at least level 1, which will open up a lot of possibilities here. I think that our new Padishah as an entrepreneur would be interested in reforming the bureaucracy and making sure that they can support him in his projects, which in this case, what I think we're going to do is we're going to continue on working on lowering our autonomy. I would like to give the empire a little bit of time to rest. Again, we're not going to shy away from wars, but what we need to do is we need to make sure that, north to south, west to east, our provinces are connected. We have done quite a lot of work at that already. You can see that even the border provinces like Tumsa or Thessalia have an autonomy that is possible. There's going to be quite a lot of issues with connecting, for example, Thessalia, unless we get some major ports here. But for that, I would really like to build some more ports, because you can see that Central Anatolia is actually already becoming way more susceptible to us. These sort of hilly mountainous regions in the central south, whatever you want to call them, are fairly isolated, even though we have a significant amount of roads here. In some of them, unfortunately, we don't, like in Beorsferth here, which could be fixed under an entrepreneur king. I would like to spread the roads to Gonen and Beorsferth and make sure that we have good roads, or at least one road going from the west to east and from north to south, because it's gonna make it so that our troops can move faster. You get quite a decent bonus to movement for your units. Yes, for roads, primitive road network gives you 25% from the movement speed. The second level gives you 50% movement speed, so it definitely makes sense to have at least a road network of 2 from north to south and from west to east. It doesn't have to be in every single province, but consider it like what do you call it? Like a major highway or major connection. I can envision it going from Orestis, where we have the level 2 fort, through Ematie, Poroi to Constantinople, another like we would go Tekerda, Anhialo, then we could go Shumen, Dubrovnika, Delca, and Constanta, and then we could have, the coastal road is not that important because we have ports here, so instead I would like to have probably a road through Akshehir to Antalya, and then maybe one going, say, from Eskişehir to Nigde. I think we already laid some, we have laid some foundation to that. We already have roads here, so it's not something that we are missing. So that's basically what the entrepreneurial king would do. I would also like to do a little bit of a revision about the amenities. Unfortunately, the game is not showing it. Wait, here it is. Amenities, rank 2. So, for example, in Constantinople, we can have max 80,000 urban population. We currently have... It's actually much more readable in the religion place. We have 56,364 people living in the urban area. In Bursa, we have amenities too as well, so that's fine. We have enough space. But in Edirne, for example, we have urban population of 16,000. That's fine. We have space. No, we actually have space. Oh, I read that wrong. Yeah, we have only 30,000 people available, or housing for 30,000 people in Constantinople. So getting an upgrade to urban housing in Constantinople is actually necessary, because we are having a downward spiral here. So that's something that we should also, as an entrepreneurial king, check. I expect that to be unbelievably expensive, because the amenities rank 3 are going to be quite expensive. Yeah, 1,000 gold. It's crazy. But I think in certain situations they can actually, there's enough pressure for them to build it themselves. 1,000 gold for amenities, that's crazy. But you see with what kind of situation will be working here. But yeah, I want to, generally speaking, build the roads, build the ports, and push down the corruption, because that's gonna be working well. If we organize our bureaucracy, we're gonna get access to a lot of extra taxation, which is good. And we also need to curtail the nobility's influence. You can see pretty well on the corruption view what's giving us most is the familiar service, it's the ambitious court, it's the sophisticated emissaries, and the bureaucratic politicization. So if you can get rid of these, the corruption is gonna plummet, and then we have just things that we have a hard time influencing, like decentralization. We really can't do much with that. It's just a direct effect of our state and the state corruption. But these, quite a lot is coming from our setup, so these need to be removed. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this update. There is a lot of things happening to us. We're doing good though, and I believe that we will have quite a nice and bright future ahead of us. So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you in the next episode, where we're going to continue the story of the Osmanli Devleti. Till then, you guys take care.